All right, good evening and welcome to the City of Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It is March 27th, 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor St. John.
Here.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Here.
Mrs. Cooper.
Here.
Mr. Lawrence.
Here.
Mr. Ribo. And Mrs. Miller.
Here.
We have 5 present. Planning and Zoning Commission elections and rules. We have a review and then a vote. Mr. Whitney, do you want to give us any background on this?
We had appreciate it, Mayor. We had provided this, I believe, to council or to the commission a month ago for review and comment. I didn't hear anything back, but in line with the charter that the commission is provide their own rules. So that's essentially what this is. And the document essentially just goes forth with the process, the procedure for meetings that you should be following, and sets forth the chairperson and vice chairperson, which we will also, as you notice on the agenda, will be electing tonight. So that's essentially it. If there's any questions anyone has, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions on the rules?
I had one on section B, which says that the citizen members shall not hold any other office or employment with the municipality. What does other office mean?
Other office, well, it would certainly be any employment with, but do you have an example? I mean, certainly
Well,
elected official.
Look, elected official, but let's say I'm the citizen member, because it's talking about the citizen members. What if there's the Board of Tax Appeals? Could I be on another board? Is that an office?
I would say that is another office, yes. I'd have to do I guess, formal research on that, but I would think that would be what that meant, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Sure.
It's a good question. So that would be like Personnel Board of Appeals, Board of Zoning Appeals could not be on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Correct. Yes, this really would be for the citizens, their only employee, so to speak, with the city would be.
That's what I thought it said,
Yeah,
but I wanted to
yeah.
make sure.
Any other questions or points of clarification? So do we need to adopt the rules first and then go into elections, or is it a one-stop shop?
Well, I think you should do both of them independently. I don't know that it matters which order, quite frankly, you do them in, but I would do a motion second and vote on adopting the rules, and a motion second and vote on electing the chair and the vice chair. So you could go ahead and go with the rules at this point, and then
I'll make that motion on the rules.
Got a motion by Commission Member Cooper.
I'll second.
Oh, go ahead. We got a second by Commission Member Deborah Miller.
All right. Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
And Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
All right, and then we are on to a vote, and you said the chair and the vice chair.
Yes, and I would suggest doing them independently, one at a time. So maybe take nominations for chair and then vote on that.
Are there any motions for chair?
I nominate the mayor.
Okay. Any other nominations? Is there a second? Second. Second by John Lawrence. Motion made by Deborah Miller. Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
All right, nominations for vice chair.
Rick Riley. Since I ain't here.
Any other nominations? All right, I'll second Rick Riva. Discussion? Roll call?
All right, Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
All right. Any other offices? It was secretary or anything?
That's it. It's up to the commission to the extent you find necessity for any other offices you could, but you need to have at least these two. And pursuant to the rules, the offices will be in place until the January meeting of next year, and then we'll do the same thing. Hopefully get in the pattern of doing it every year annually, that you'll be electing new officers each year, or the same ones, but at least having the election.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
For the public, this is the first time the Planning and Zoning Commission has had to do this. This was a follow-up item from the charter. We're getting around to it. So. All right, we're good there. So we are on to the commission review ravines at Meadow Ridge preliminary plat. The applicant has submitted a preliminary plat for review and approval. And who would like to speak from the applicant's perspective?
Hi, Mike Reeves with Kinley Morgan Associates, civil engineer, representing Federal Development, 7965 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio, 23235.
Is there anything you'd like to cover with us this evening?
I'd just like to say, thanks for everyone for working. We've had a number of meetings on this project. This is a preliminary plat for development and previously under zoning. So I think hopefully everyone is familiar with this. We've been working with CT consultants to go through the preliminary engineering stage and preliminary plat stage, and then look forward to coming back with final engineering documents after this.
Great. All right, we'll pass it over to staff, see what comments they have. Mr. Whiting?
Thank you, Mayor. And commission members, I have, as Mr. Reeves had mentioned, we have had numerous meetings on this project, and we've had a lot of 3 reviews and 3 submittals and gone through. You've got the letter in front of you. There's not really anything that particularly sticks out unless you've got some of your own. There is one, I believe I forwarded you the comments from regional planning on the road naming. Some issues with road naming. We need to make sure we get that cleared up. And I didn't get a response from you. I assume you're okay with their comments, or?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure if you want me to review the entire project, or you're familiar enough with it that you would just have to would rather ask questions and discussion.
We'll probably stick with the latter. And
Okay.
are there any questions or comments, or does anyone need any context for the project that we're discussing? All right, I'll give some context, and then if there's any questions, feel free to raise them. This is a multifamily project, formerly in Berlin Township, 744 units. The Sunbury Parkway will eventually virtually bifurcate the project into an east and west section. This was approved by zoning, also by city council, and we're in the preliminary plat phase of approval. Some of the issues that I would say have been worked through are primarily around access, stormwater, utility, setbacks, multi-use trails, proximity of trees, dog parks, all of the above.
Right. And I should mention probably one of the most important or more important things are the screening from the residential areas next to it. And they've we have been addressing that since zoning. I do have some exhibits that they submitted at that time, and are still going down that same path. And everything is in line. There are some comments that still need to be addressed, but they can be addressed at final engineering, and would recommend approval based on those comments being addressed at final engineering for the final approvals.
And just one other thing I'll note is since city council approved, the Sunbury Parkway project had shifted slightly. And there was a lot of discussion around how that would affect the overall development, but I think the developer and their engineer worked really well with you to address your comments, Mr. White.
Right, it was actually moved back to where it was to start with, so it did work out. There was a little bit of a scare there at first that we thought they were gonna need to redesign a good portion of it, but MS Consultants had moved it, aligned it back to the original one.
Engineers. So Kinley Horn did this pro bono, any of that one. Right, good deal. All right, any questions, comments?
It says approval of divergence. Was there a list of diversions
Oh,
that I didn't see?
Those divergences, I thought that was on the page too. There's 1, 2, and 19. Those are all divergences that I thought were approved at zoning. And Wes had me put those on there early on and they didn't get taken off. I'm sorry. Thank you for asking that. I should have addressed that. What is your recollection of that? I meant to ask you. It was they're not new. They were on the original.
Good Thomas, appreciate the time this evening. Thank you all. Yes, that's correct. They are previously approved divergences that were part of the rezoning process back in October.
Again, thank you for bringing that up. I do have that in my notes here. The one was for the phases being 10 acres in size, but the configuration of the property and the ravines and wetlands and all that kind of stuff made that not impossible, but impractical and not an appropriate way to design the property based on those restrictions. The other ones were divergences for access road widths. There was some variation in access road widths, and then those come again back to the idea of geometry and making things work out. And they did get the fire department approval on those widths that are identified there. The other one was simply based on timing, and that's not really relevant to what we're discussing tonight.
So the gist of it is nothing has substantially changed. If anything, this is just a more refined look at what's already been approved.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
There's supposed to be a 5-acre plot dedicated to the village or to the city at this point, I guess. It's not noted on here.
There. Alex, do you have the site plan on your? Yeah, if you pull up the preliminary plat, it is on the plat and the plans up on the northeast side of the property.
It's right here, lot 5.
Well, on this preliminary plan, it has an arrow pointing to that area that says future commercial development by others.
Right, and that was a outdated comment. That comment is irrelevant. Yeah, there were several submittals and reviews. You may be looking at review number 1 or 2. That is designated to be platted for municipal ownership.
I don't see it depicted here, but I trust you. I know that's was a contingency on the zoning approval. The dedication, I don't see it in the plan either.
I'm sorry, restate that?
It's not denoted anywhere in this packet that we have right now. The city of Sunbury is to be deeded this property anywhere, and it's not delineated in terms of like a property boundary.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I must have got lost in one of the comments, but it is designated, it will be split as a lot when Sunbury Parkway is built, because there's no lot there until Sunbury Parkway is built, and will be platted as a separate parcel at that time. So there's basically, 5 parcels, that's the 5th one.
Which red line with the green?
Well, we're looking into that. Any other questions from the commission?
What do you have there, Steve?
I'm asking if it's this red line that's got the green on it. I can't read it. It's about my microphone.
No, that was referring to something different.
Okay.
Oh, that's, I'm sorry, that future commercial development by others these green comments were by the county engineer's office. That's not relevant to the comments I was making. The red comments were ours. He just wasn't aware of what was happening there, so I didn't document it because it wasn't relevant to my review.
My comments are all black and white. I don't have any marine.
All right, any other questions? Are we ready for an approval? Make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for ravines at Meadow Ridge.
A second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Cooper. Do we have anything we need to consider? I made the motion. Mr. Whitney, Mr. White, any questions or comments?
No, I think we're okay. He was asking whether we need to be contingent on final engineering, but because it's a preliminary, I think we're fine.
Okay.
With that happening there.
All right. Any further discussion by the planning and zoning commissioners? Roll call?
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mr. Governor.
No,
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Ms. Miller.
Yes.
All right, we're on to the next one. Thank you. Have a great day. All right, we are on to Commission Review 130 Burter Drive Major Site Plan. The applicant has submitted a major site plan for an addition to the commercial building. As the packet that we just received right before the meeting. The commercial building located at 130 Burter Drive. And who will be speaking on behalf of the applicant? Okay. Sure.
I guess my name is Sean Bogrant, architecture. So we're here representing Barry Bennett. So he owns a property at 130 Burner Drive. And the original when the building was permitted, there was a plan to put an addition on the end, which is what he's looking to do now. Basically, the same footprint that was in the original lines of its 92 by 75, and I think at this point, what Barry's hoping is I'm sorry. They moved to that and then you know, they have a bigger, more open space, and then they would probably still have a small retail component up front. And then this covers materials. What's in that materials, so what they're looking at. Then the update to the drawing was basically comments that, you know, we had received from the CT and then just some additional information. Like I said, we're looking at a brick base, essentially. This brick, and then each of the top, you know, kind of to tie back to what's there, and then do some, you know, highlights there on the side of the storefront. And I think we do a bronze storefront. All the other windows now are bronze color. And then we're thinking, you know, just try to build some flexibility into it. You know, initially we're thinking there's one ton, but you know, so there's some flexibility. There might also an employee entrance allow, but they can entrance, so you know, another one,
we put that to work with in the future, you know, looking at changing fence and, so the east and north elevation, the existing building is, re-engineering level. And, this is the profile that's in there now, so as close as we can match, the building is, you know, for years old and then manufacturers change too, so I think that's close as match that we could find this time. And, so, you know, our interpretation of the zoning code is it says, elevations are visible in the street grade. So there's, currently some evergreen trees on the east and on the north side, and then we're proposing adding some additional screening on the north side. And that's kind of where we're at. So it's just, you know, one thing there.
Mr. White, you want to give us?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for a preliminary plan. They're very well done. I really appreciate the detail you put into it. Obviously, I haven't reviewed the second set yet, but I'll get that done. The real 6,900 square foot addition, relatively minor project. Again, they've identified some site work in there and done a good job of delineating that and the other things that our architect here has mentioned. The only thing that's remains an issue is the stormwater. And I know they mentioned that they would work that out. There's a regional stormwater basin there, and we all had to do a good bit of research to find that background information. They just got it last week. I think you need some time to digest it and go through it. The assumption is it's appropriate as is, but I'm certain that they'll address any engineering issues that come up between now and final engineering to address any concerns with that. So again, with this one, I would recommend approval with condition that the final engineering addresses any remaining comments that may not already be addressed in that plan set. There is a question. You did have I'm not sure, are you an engineer? Yeah. There was a comment on the title sheet about a variance. There was no variances listed. Are you looking for some sort of variance, or was that just a catch-all?
We don't think we are. Part of that is, you know, we're wanting to submit and, you know, basically, like we said, the materials thing is a little bit open-ended. I mean, I talked to Alex about this. It says, you know, visible from the street. And if it's screened, is that visible from the street or not visible from the street? So, I mean, I guess it's really your determination, right?
I believe so.
And my interpretation of that would be whether the screening is there or is not, it's visible from the street, so that it's not necessarily completely visible, but if you were standing on that street, that landscaping wasn't there, it's going to be part of the building. And of course, you've got a higher elevation than what your landscaping is going to show. You agree, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about the east elevation.
Yes.
So is the gist of it that basically they're going to extend the building? It's not a large addition compared to the rest of the building. They're going to try to match materials for the most part.
Right.
On the street side, you know, we are upgrading the materials to what, you know, under the zoning code. It definitely says, you know, elevations facing the street should be natural materials. So based on the definition of natural materials, all of the materials that are on the street side are, you know, by definition, they fit the definition. Then the question becomes the north and the east that and we're matching those things that I would say are in the structure of the existing building is, you know, like re-engineered level building. So we're, you know, extending that. Yeah, and so if the materials are on the front, then that circle will be modified from what a typical is. You know, we're looking on the other elevations. You know, use the metal panels that would be part of the system.
I think I understand. Basically, you're saying they're going to upgrade the south and the west because they're on the corner.
Sorry, the west is the existing building. So there is
Okay, nothing happening to the west.
yeah, because it's touching the other building.
Okay. south, they're doing something too, making it pretty, meeting our code, right?
East, the current east side is similar to what the future east side would be.
Yeah, it'll look pretty much identical, except,
Okay.
right now, there's a door that won't need to be there because the new version of the exit will be on the back. That way they're part of the part. So,
Are there a bunch of trees on the east side?
yes.
Are those getting removed?
No. Oh,
No, those are like pine trees. I mean, it looks like they're blocking, they're screening in essence, right?
the way they are, they're actually blocking. You can't see through them.
Okay, so Mr. White, your recommendation is to approve pending engineering, final engineering.
Final engineering that addresses the comments we provided and anything else comes up, but primarily the stormwater concern, to make sure that's addressed, because that is relatively unaddressed at the moment.
Is this go to council?
It does not.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess to the extent that there's, it's about addressing the comments that are provided generally. I think that that's fine with subject to final engineering, but if we're still in the stage of back and forth, probably it might be something more appropriate to table the next time to allow more time. It's up to you.
Well, and I totally agree. And often that's the case, but like I said, they did a really good job of detailing the engineering, and I'm comfortable with allowing it to go forward, subject to addressing those final engineering concerns for my signature or Wes's signature.
No, the only thing I'm having a hard time visualizing, I appreciate your description and the visuals and your assurance, Mr. White, but I'm having a hard time visualizing this. And maybe I'm missing an exhibit somewhere, but I don't see any.
Down to A3.
See the last sheet?
There.
My only question is, if you're upgrading the new portion on the south elevation, are you upgrading the remainder of the south elevation? So I guess in my opinion, wouldn't you want the building to look symmetrical and not upgrade the new south elevation? Is that what you're kind of getting at, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, generally now that I see it, I do see it, they're upgrading the portion that is being added,
Right.
right?
Yeah, then in the colors, pretty similar to what's there. You know, so there's a band on the balcony windows. So I was trying to relate back to that, and then, you know, the brick is obviously an upgrade, and there is storefront there now that is, I mean, the proportions of it are different, but, you know, the idea was to open it up and, you know, get more light in. So,
When I look at the south elevation, and one of the things when we talked about in just general discussion, I thought the building didn't know really what it was. And this continues that theme where you add really nice, I love what you're doing on the addition. And I would really like if you would just take a little bit of the brick, and I wouldn't care where you put it, but somewhere on the south elevation, just to tie the two, whether you put it by the two doors that people go in. It didn't even have to be a little spot, just to tie it in.
yeah.
I'm looking at A3.
Where exactly? Right now, it's yellow.
Well, like, if you look at A3, there's that little bit by the end of the building, by your first door.
So are you talking about, so would you like me to put little windows in there? It's just warehouse area.
Well, I just want to bring the outside to look cohesive, not like you just threw the second building, a really nice building, up against your building.
Are you asking for that in between the new addition and the big overhead doors, or?
No, just somewhere tastefully to put it maybe around the door the lower half of the doors, or so that, see how you've done that
So,
on the,
sorry, so there's the existing office area, right?
Mhm.
Those with-
right.
Are you talking about the office portion of there?
I'm talking about the door almost to the end of the building, underneath the red sign,
The west side.
on the south elevation, that door there and that door,
Here.
and way at the other end,
Further this side over here.
like right there, and then
Yeah, whatever.
whether you just kind of do a prima facie or something that kind of brings the red brick. Maybe it's just painting,
I could put a facing brick all the way across here, just on top of what's there.
Mhm. It's for, you know, I'm not, just something that brings the two together.
Yeah, where the split face is now, is that what you're saying?
That's block right now, right?
Right.
Split face block. I mean,
Yeah, this is,
it's not metal.
no, that's structural block.
Right.
This is split face, this is the ethos.
Yeah, I'm just talking about bringing that red brick
Yeah,
periodically through the rest of that south elevation.
yeah, and that's what I was mentioning. You know, I was doing the ethos above the brick to kind of relate back to this too. So, and the colors are, pretty similar. So, like I said, in the broad strip form. Yeah, I mean, I think there would be a way to do that if, we could do a band down here, up there.
And it doesn't have to be the brick. I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
where I've seen paints that have done, that type of the same thing too. I'm just trying to bring the two buildings together.
I am not an aesthetics guy, so whatever you think, I'm fine.
I drive by your building every day.
I could paint each one a different color.
And, I'm not asking, I'm hoping I'm not asking for a lot of money. I'm just trying to,
And you're saying on the south elevation?
yes.
So,
Or would it be easier just to replicate what's on the left, on the right?
just float face there.
Yeah.
Taking away that brick.
Well,
Well, I thought it was nicer, but.
I like the
I
brick.
mean, I do think the brick will look nicer. That's like, level 201, where this is 101. I get what Deborah's saying though, and I think it's kind of what Joe was saying too, a little bit. It's just tying it together a little bit will help.
So you're just talking about aesthetics at this point,
I think so.
because whatever. I have no problem doing whatever it takes, but you gotta figure out what it is.
Alex, while we're here, can we move to the right on the screening portion?
You're gonna see all the way where the trees are here?
Yeah, just generally like, once you go down there, it looks like maybe one, that's probably good. Yeah,
Buildings over there.
so those trees will remain.
That might even add a few. Yeah.
And was staff saying that they should screen this more?
No, what I was referring to was where it has road frontage, not on those, I don't know what you call that. Ancillaries, the vision from what the architect was referring to was visible from the street. I was saying that visible from the street if it's adjacent to the street, but not across. Like you were just looking at it. Right. I don't know how to describe that, but that look.
I always interpreted that as a zoning member, that if you're on a corner lot, the side that's on like facing the street, like that's what you should be doing, natural materials, and then the ones back. This one's a little bit unique because it's setbacks to the library and the public space, to the south.
Yeah, when it comes to trees, more is better for me, so I have a problem.
We agree with you. Are there enough outstanding questions where we don't want to approve this at this point and kick it to another meeting, or we feel like we've articulated it enough to send it off to the architects, have engineer and staff review this on our behalf?
In my mind, as long as it sounds like they understand what I'm looking, it's just bring the two buildings together, and I don't have a particular way to have that done.
Right.
I'm just making suggestions.
Yeah, I think it might be possible to like, to strip the paint off that's on there now, and that's like a thin brick or something that you could.
Like a veneer, brick veneer. Okay.
And then I can check and see, like, I mean, we should be able to get an exact match for that brick. So, some bricks you can do, you can get either, and then some bricks you can only get one or the other.
Right.
So, you know, if it's possible to get both, you know, we can do that.
Okay.
Like, so as long as he's one. Yeah.
Pretty good. Any thoughts on this side? You okay with where we're at? Mrs. Cooper, Mr. Rance? You okay?
It bothers me that one is one color and the other is a completely different color. It looks, well, it looks the same, but it looks not. I don't know. It looks odd that one side is, the end is different, much different than the other. The windows don't bother me too much, but I don't know. I don't have a strong feeling about it.
Do you think though, if they put that brick all the way through there, that you'd be more comfortable?
Yeah. But it sounds like they're gonna work on that.
Yeah. I think so.
This doesn't come back to any approving body, is that right?
It does not.
All right, so
It's an addition as opposed to a new construction is the distinction that the code makes.
so we're putting a lot of faith in Alex and Mr. White. That's what I'm hearing.
That's an apt way, I think, to characterize it.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, that's precisely what you're doing.
All right. You okay with that?
I'm okay with it, but it's your call. I don't know if it's. I think it may be appropriate to have them come back if you have that much concern with the aesthetics, because I'm not sure that I have the same visual acuity that Mrs. Miller may have. So I'm not sure I want to take that responsibility from an aesthetic standpoint. It's not like it's a regulation or an engineering issue. It's a look, and I'm not sure I'm qualified to make that decision for this panel, this board.
I think we can handle it. If we pass this, you could reach out to Mrs. Miller and have her stop by.
Well, and I think as long as it's the same, right, and that's the if it's the same and it's, then it'll be fine.
That's fine, and yeah, if you don't mind, I can just
Yes,
email you
or I could come by, you know, I don't live that far.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Oh, right behind that. Yes.
I'm good with this.
Yeah.
I like that suggestion though. I
Yeah.
think it'll bring the two parts together and
All right, together.
so what would you like? A motion to approve this with engineering
And staff approval.
and staff approval?
Yes.
City manager, Worthington, let's put the aesthetic stuff on me, and that's not much for today.
You're all okay with filing, because honestly, I've sat through enough meetings where that becomes an issue as well. Because so the way we're looking at the standard uses, we are with their distinct time. We think we're looking at valid, they use what's there, but if they give them time, but I mean, yeah, I got staggered uses of buildings, so there's one major, there are two major tenants that are there at opposite times of the day. So no issue there. The third tenant is really there on Sunday. So hopefully that should not be an issue, but just bring it up.
We know how short they are on parking?
Well, we had broken the sign as well, so it shows on there. During which time. Sorry.
Usually, I mean, there's a calculation in our zoning code though, based on square footage of the building and number of spaces. That's what I was asking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You have it on there. I didn't see it in the review.
Let's see anything about parking in here.
Based on the current uses, people don't fully utilize the west side as much as they should. They're always flooding the south side anyways.
The west side is only used anyway on Sunday. And for like an hour and a half, with nobody else in the building anyway. Yeah, that's usually not very well, not very good. Yeah, so the way we analyze it, you know, based on times, like at any given time, we're pretty good number of under. That makes sense.
That's just based on current state, not expanding. Is that what you're saying?
No, based on what the usage of our predicting of, and I mean, there are a lot of other municipalities that do that. If you have, they can, you know, if you have daytime use and then evening use, and they don't coincide, then, you know, usually there's a little bit of flexibility in that. So during a given time, we're pretty far under what we would need, but I just don't want it to, you know, want to make sure we like report coming and that doesn't, you know, cheat here.
If you look at drawing C-103, the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see where he has it broken down. So you currently have 52 spaces.
Yeah. Oh, there was one form like you got to miss that.
That's
You got to miss that. Now I got one down here. I was just looking when I reviewed.
There actually could be a few more since 20 years ago, when you guys let me put the entrance ramp in for when I was in business. We don't need that huge ramp anymore, so if we need to, that can be converted back to a couple of spaces.
Does staff have any concerns over the parking?
I thought the parking calculations were perfect and they're exactly what I'm accustomed to seeing.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to, like I said, I want to make sure we're coming and if there were a couple of items that there was some interpretation, you know, we interpret one way. I just want to make sure we, like, you know, how we interpret them, but you get it right. We're being honest and we're like.
We trust you.
Right.
I'll save you some words there. All right, are we ready to go? Staff, I just want to make sure we're good to go.
I know we've done the parking calculation before when you gave me the first plan and I didn't bring it up then, so I'm guessing we're good in as far as zoning code goes, because it's based on square footage and I didn't hiccup at it, didn't write it down anywhere. So
Sounds good.
I trust my judgment on that.
All right, good deal. All right, do we have a motion?
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor for approval with staff and engineering. Or how do you want me to word that?
Approval.
Approval,
Subject to.
subject to.
Subject to
That's
review
what
and
I was
approval.
looking for.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll second.
There's a second by Mrs. Miller. Discussion. Roll call.
Nancy Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Jovinar,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes,
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Ms. Miller.
Yes.
The only way I can explain that is I felt like I was at a seventh grade dance and didn't know what to do.
Thank you all.
Good night. Thank you. All right, we are on to the next item on the agenda. It's the commission review Sunbury Meadows and Peacock Drive major commercial site plan, including new commercial building. The applicant has submitted a development plan for a planned commercial development on the corner of Sunbury Meadows and Peacock Drive, including a proposed daycare center. Who will be speaking on behalf of the applicant?
Yeah, my name is Nathan Gary, with Bracken here, working with That's good development in section 1. We were here, I guess it was 2 meetings in January. Live with some information, it was preliminary. And hey, back, got quite a bit more information for you guys. Let's get elevations. Say, we also, I know there was a main concern in that meeting in particular, it's location orientation of the playground area. We're only talking about lot 3 or like right center. We actually turn that 180 degrees, keep that right at the bottom. So they address that here until. I don't know, there's a couple of preliminary comments. In general, it seems to be pretty relevant. We have our travel guys looking into the updated numbers. We haven't got the forecast yet, but I think that is really clear. And engineering wise, pretty minor. I think we can. Looks at how we can address all those pretty. Once we have a chance to this meeting, get you guys feedback and reach some there. So looking for approval.
Sure. All right, Mr. Whited or Alex, do you have comments on the proposal?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. The a pretty big issue with this access and a big unresolved issue. What's your thoughts on the right in, right out that was suggested by the reviewing traffic engineer?
I mean, I don't have any disagreements with it per se. I know our traffic guys, parking area is looking into it and seeing how this universe affects the opposite.
Right.
But in general, I don't disagree with it much. It does provide a little easy way to get in and out and not having congestion on Route 3 for sure.
Well, I should mention this to the commission as well. We went through, you are familiar, they did an informal presentation a few months ago and I went through the site, and as he said, they did turn that building so it's oriented differently with playground toward not toward State Route 3. Most of the engineering issues are easily addressable. I'm pretty concerned about this traffic study because it was there were some inadvertent errors, I would say, with some timing. They had some numbers switched on the phasing for the traffic light signal there, which totally affects the stacking that would occur on Sunbury Meadows Drive. Honestly, without having that issue of the access on Sunbury Meadows Drive hashed out, I'm not comfortable with giving an approval until we have it figured out and get a traffic study that's approvable.
What right in, right out are we discussing here?
So there would be a at the entrance off of Sunbury Meadows Drive. It comes off State Route 3. There's that
The unnamed street,
median.
Admiral Drive.
Yeah, yes, across from Admiral Drive, there's that entrance there has a full access. In our opinion, it's not, it's unwieldy and dangerous to have that there because of the stacking that would occur all the way back to State Route 3, as well as stacking on the, going to the, I guess that would be west on this plan. But with the full access there, we're concerned that will create some significant traffic issues, and particularly at rush hour times and if that's a coffee shop, 8 o'clock in the morning, that's going to be pretty darn busy in there. And at the same time, they're dropping off children at the daycare center.
If I could, time wise, how it is, time is money, right? So we're trying to get this thing going, trying to get the next step. So if we just say, hey, 100% get it right in, right out. And you want to update the traffic numbers, I can update this plan, that's no big deal. But for this meeting, just for today, we want to at least get us to the next step and get to the final. And we can provide details, update the plan. Right in, right out is a good idea, obviously. So we could 100% do that. That's caused some concern. I know that Canada show up right now, but if we can get that step to the next level, we can, of course, update the plan to share that.
Okay, are there other comments?
The comments were relatively minor regarding, there are some significant details we worked out on the drainage, but again, that's unexpected. That's typical. I don't really have any heartburn over any other concerns on here. So if the commission is of the mind to approve it, knowing that they would put a right in, right out there, an engineered right in, right out with an updated traffic study, move forward with that, and get that worked out, I would be okay with it. And it does have to come back to council, so.
Are we approving the actual square footage and parking spaces and access for lots 1, 2, and 3? Or is it 1, 2, 3, and 4 yet to be determined?
Lot number 2 is the only one that's being approved as a layout for now.
So,
Yeah.
I believe you guys said lots 1 and 2 as they're shown on here, just like hypothetical, what could go there, right?
Yeah, in general, lot 3 is looking, it's looking like Valley's gonna be in there. Lot 1, it's kind of unknown. It could be a coffee shop, it could be something else. Lot 4 is kind of flux as well. So those are all, and I can, in the next iteration, and development plans, I can make sure that's 100% clear as by owners at the time. That way it's easily seen.
is all the roadway, I'll say access, this is gonna be a roadway, I mean, road spec, right? The Admiral Drive, is it gonna be Admiral Drive?
No, that's just in a private, it's like basically like a parking lot access. It's not an actual road.
Yeah, so just in general, what we're trying to do is, you got this 6-7 acre parcel. We're trying to create the roadways internally so everybody can access those roads. And then for future developments to come along, and then along with this phase, really, we're doing stormwater ponds so that everybody can use the stormwater ponds. So it's kind of a regional system. Just kind of doing all the infrastructure set up for everybody else. Since TLE is going in first, it's just the first to come through there. And just build it all, set it all up for lots 1, 3, 4 coming later.
Which is excellent to have that regional stormwater basin, so we're not having to worry about little tiny features on this small site. So that's fine. Presuming it works.
What other engineering comments are there that we need to be aware of?
The other engineering comments were related to the let me see. I was focused on the traffic study there. Need to further review the parking spaces as they go through final engineering. It was appropriate for the learning center. But the detention basin is really the big thing. They do have the screening and fencing and mounding along State Route 3, which was appropriate. They need to do some analyzation on the dumpster pad to make sure it trash truck can fully navigate that without doing 20-point turns. And there's software, it's called auto turn, to do that with. And it's typical from.
I didn't send it to you yet.
Okay, all right. So those issues, which are all relatively minor, and the other ones are related to the drainage, and those are some detailed engineering needs to be done on that to make sure it's suitable for the site. That's more of a final engineering issue concern. But to answer your question, not a whole lot other than the traffic study.
From a zoning review perspective, any comments, questions? Alex?
Dan hasn't already brought up.
Okay, all right. Anything from the Planning and Zoning Commission?
I had a couple things. On the elevation page where you see the north, south, east, west elevation, are those the actual directions right? They don't appear to be right.
They might because the site view. Yeah, it's not true.
Because it says, looks like your main door is on the south, but that's not where it is on.
Right. Right. It's almost from the east. So that's we need to update the link.
So this needs to be updated because.
Yeah, that link would have to be east then, would be south.
So the front door is the top one, correct? With the
right.
sign on it? So is that going to be on the north side of the building?
So if you look at the site plan, this would be facing the parking lot.
Right, so that's north.
North.
Right.
Okay. Okay. The other thing, I noticed is you still got two access roads onto Peacock Drive. Is there a reason why we're still going with two?
I think that in a traffic world, more access is actually. This kind of loose term, but the better, so the flow of traffic there. In general, you choke it down to one or two, more options, it will lead a little bit of traffic as you have more. So in general, that's kind of what we're looking to do.
It's also with anticipation for the additional lots that are there, we just think that's going to make the entrance in and out easier, as well as less congestion all the way around. This also takes into account that we are in agreement to put in the right in and right out. We're trying to alleviate all the congestion and concerns from the neighbors and what have you. Stacking too many cars out of one place.
Well, is Peacock Drive built to have that kind of traffic?
It was designed to have this commercial property off of it, yes.
So it's built to sustain that volume of traffic versus like Lemming Drive and Leatherleaf Circle and.
Yes, ma'am, and it will be, it'll be verified with the traffic impact study as well.
Okay. And how many, I guess I can go look, I'd be interested, are any of those driveways facing Peacock Drive? Those 4 houses, or 5 houses that are shown there?
Well, maybe not these ones, but I know these ones are.
I
don't think.
I don't believe so, but I can't swear to that.
Right. From my recollection, seeing aerials, I'm pretty sure they face internal.
Yeah. Can you pull that up there, Alex? That's my recollection as well, but I'm not 100% sure. I should know that.
No, so these ones are all gonna be facing Lemming.
Yeah, they're not-
Leather, but I
yeah.
know like these ones up here will be, but not the ones directly across the street.
That's past the,
Right.
so, the ones on, the 2 Lemming and then the one on Sunbury Metals faces Sunbury Metals. First one,
Yeah, this one faces Sunbury Meadows.
okay, so none of them are, their driveways are going to Peacock, right? That's not what it looks like now,
What's that?
the GPS.
There are houses that have driveways on the Peacock,
Right,
in the
they're past
undeveloped
that.
section, right? They're past the
Mhm.
ingress egress. Any other questions? Comments? Is the name of the business on here? I'm just curious, the name of the daycare center. Okay.
Learning experience.
Do you have any other sites in Central Ohio?
There's one in Powell.
Okay.
There's one in New Albany.
Okay.
There's several of them. There's one in Dublin.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Will this building pretty much look the same as the existing buildings then?
They're all a little bit, I'm not gonna say, they're all area. We're doing one like this in Bickerton too.
Okay.
That's not our current thing, but it's getting ready to start. This is kind of a good problem.
Any other comments, questions from the commission? I'd like to make an approval, or excuse me, make a recommendation for approval pending engineering review and legal.
Mayor, I would suggest, and it's my understanding the applicant has agreed to the right in, right out, it's fully engineered. I would include that as a modification from the commission requiring that at this level, simply because, as you pointed out, this does go to council. And at council, a majority vote is required to approve what this board approves. But if there's a further modification there, it would require a 3/4 vote. So I think it makes sense to get that in this so that what council specifically is approving is not only subject to engineering staff approval, but it identifies that write in and write out is a part of the approved application. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'd like to add to my motion a commitment from the applicant to make the access on the private drive across from Admiral Drive a right in, right out.
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Cooper. Discussion. Roll call. Yes.
Mr. Okenauer,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment and make sure that that is a concrete pork chop, they call them. They're not just a painted pork chop, so it actually does control traffic coming in and out. So on your engineering plan, make sure it's a structural feature, not a painted feature.
Oh, we talking about the island.
Yeah, the island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way bushes over there. Sure thing, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, we're on the visitor section. Are there any visitors who'd like to speak with us tonight? All right, we're on the motion to approve minutes, and I think we might be able to. I don't know. Are we able to approve the
We
minutes?
could do the.
We can do the one from the last month. We can't do the one from before.
Yeah, we can do one of the two.
We can do February's.
No, we can,
No, we can't.
we can do January's.
Bill was missing in January.
Joe St. John and Joe Okenauer.
Yeah, it was, January is still up.
We could do
So
it.
maybe we can do
Mr.
it.
Ryder not here, January can't be approved for sure. February,
I think you have 4 for February. That's one of these minutes you do.
Yeah, February, we're good. All right. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the February Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commission Member Okenauer,
I'll second.
second by Commission Member Miller.
You need 4 to pass that.
Yes. You
Yes.
can abstain there.
Yes. It wasn't there.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Okenauer,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence.
Abstain.
No.
Yes.
All right, minutes pass. We're on to the zoning report.
All right. So general updates as far as zoning goes, nothing really too crazy this past month in terms of zoning. I had, I'm not gonna get into specific violations. I did write a few warnings to people and kind of conversated with them, talked about what exactly they did wrong, what exactly they need to get right. One of them has already changed. It's a basketball hoop that was misplaced in the street, and the other one has a few cars in the driveway built in the right of way, and they asked for an extension for the month, and I was like, "You can get it done in a month, that's fine." So following up with them this week, but those are the only two major ones that happened. I did send out another one for bushes that were overgrown, blocking a right turn and stop sign. So we'll see where that goes, but I don't think that one will be too much trouble either because they're clearly overgrown. Aside from that, just generally inquiries about zoning code, call-ins, developers talking about where they can, what they can't do. We had a few people call in. I think I brought it up last meeting as well, but the lot that's on Route 30 or 3736 up here, talking about annexing that in. I've got 3 more calls about it this month, so I'm assuming that at some point will turn into something maybe, but just kind of a popular spot right now. We did meet with, me and Daryl met with City of New Albany once, and then I met with them myself once. The first one was going over just kind of some of their specific zoning districts, seeing how they work out for the city, asking them how they feel about it and potentially bringing them in here. And then the other meeting was just me talking to their planning department as a whole, seeing like what they did, how they grew, which direction they did, and each of their individual roles and titles to see how they're kind of keeping up with the flow, especially with the intel coming in there. And then I think that is all around a general update, and then we already went over violations. Jump to the next one. This passed from the end of last meeting until this meeting, we got 23 new zoning certificates, 15 occupancy permits, and then 4 other permits. On the bottom of page 3, I have the specific breakdown of all of the subdivisions as well. So if you guys like to see that, let me know. If not, I can always take it off, but I figured it'd be a nice visual to see how much each individual subdivision is progressing. On the next page, I have an occupancy status, which goes based on the occupancy permits, not necessarily the building. So this means someone is able to live in the house. So that's kind of where each of them are at in terms of people living in each subdivision. So a lot of them at 0%, but I'd expect at least a few to get out of that 0% by the end of the year, or not a few, a couple, maybe a few, but. On the next page, we go to construction historical trends. So March, we had 14 new builds, which compared to last year is 9 more. And I mean, compared to all the rest of the last 5 years, we're really just going above and beyond with all these developments coming in. Looking year to date, we are at 35, so still just climbing up. I don't know exactly when we will see a down, if we will see a down even going into fall, because we're kind of hitting those peak months now where it ramps up more, and we've been pretty much already ramped up since the end of January. The next page is looking annually at where we are in terms of the building permit. So right now we're almost past what 2020 was altogether, but last year is obviously the biggest year we've had. So we'll see how much we trend with last year in terms of new building permits. And then on the last page, it just goes over month by month. So chart's a little hard to see. I tried to finagle the colors to make it a little easier, but just goes over each individual year and each month in the year to show kind of progressively how much we've been growing. So the green bar in February, March is where we currently are. So it kind of just gives you another visual of how much we've been going over the last few years so far this year. Well, any questions on any of the items?
I want to tell you, I really liked page 4.
Sure.
I did like that.
So I didn't hear you.
Page 4, where your occupancy status, that helped a lot. On the general update, when was the last time that we updated our records retention schedule for zoning?
Before Steve, because I don't recollect doing it.
Records retention for zoning specifically?
Well, now that I see the answer, how about the whole city?
Well, that happens on an annual basis, record retention.
Yeah, so but zoning hasn't been updating at the same time.
Well, we do the review and see if there's anything we can dispose of on an annual basis, but in terms of changing that schedule of record retention, it hasn't been changed.
You might want to look at that because I've been on a record commission for decades and there's always things that need to be changed and tweaked in the schedule in all departments, including zoning.
I don't know that we break it down by department. If I could be wrong, but Steve, does that sound right?
There's different categories of record.
Right.
And planning and zoning probably
Personnel files. and-
totally different.
Yeah,
It's probably its own schedule. So
Okay.
yeah, that probably needs to be looked at.
That's why we paid Mrs. Miller the big bucks. Thank you. Good question. You don't know what you don't know. Is that true?
Well, it's very easy, just like you added these new reports, and those new reports now have to be on your retention schedule.
Good point.
And then how the method you do them, did you put everything out electronic? How you need to dispose of those, that has to be updated. So
You got us thinking now. I'm serious.
Uh-huh.
I'm not being sarcastic. I'm being dead serious. You got me thinking now.
yeah, it's we used to meet twice a year and it was an ongoing thing.
That's good to know. All right. Deal. Any other comments or questions? you have anything you wanted to add, Alex?
No, that's a good idea that I had with the previous, so.
Yeah, I do too. Great update. I mean, these have come a long way, and I don't mean that as you comparing to Steve. I mean, in general, we have come a long way.
Only the same thing.
I did.
Evolution number two. I evolved it and I think he's evolved it.
Well, there's been incremental increases, and you really made a big jump this year. I mean, with just the things, putting it in perspective. I love page 4 as well. I mean, it really puts things in perspective when you're looking at it. Like, okay, how big is this? And what's the growth potential? What's the size, scale, scope? I use those words all the time.
Like, I've seen most of them below 50%. It's just kind of astounding because seeing where, I mean, in a year or two, even more bleak is going to be substantial. So it's nice visual.
The building permits, that's I don't know the right word, astonishing, I guess. Profound, wowing. It's like, it's moving faster than even I had thought. Okay. I did want to mention one thing about your comments about New Albany. So in general, I just want to give an update to the Planning and Zoning Commission. With the announcement of Intel, there have been users. When I say users, they're either upstream from Intel, downstream from Intel, or peripheral type users, I guess is the right word I would say. And there's a lot of development potential in central Ohio, but in close proximity, Johnstown, New Albany, Sunbury, Delaware, you know, based on whatever relationship you have with Intel or like the tech sector in general. Like if you are a supplier for Intel, you maybe have criteria when you're looking for land that is, you know, a 15-minute drive within this much, and you have to have this much workforce, you know, averaging this amount of payroll, you know, this median income. There's queries that not only users like or developers or businesses are looking at that we're being approached, and this should be no secret to anybody. I mean, like if you turn on the news and hear about Intel, $20 billion of investment from one company on top of a 5,000 acre industrial park that already existed prior to Intel. Anybody who sees this should know that businesses are looking to come here, and for the right reasons. So what I've asked Daryl to do, and I'm glad you're bringing in Alex, I know Steve's involved, Mr. Bream are involved, is looking at our zoning code. And if we want to attract the right type of businesses that will be here for the long term, you know, what does our zoning code even allow it? Because truthfully, some of these zoning processes to me feel clunky. Like, you know, we're making, no offense, we're kind of making it up on the fly when it comes to aesthetic standards and like what looks right. You know, our zoning code has a very segmented sequential process, but it's, in my opinion, not comprehensive. Like it doesn't like set out this grand vision and you know, when you talk about zoning code, and then really the important thing, like what you see with your eyes, like the development standards, like what are the materials? What's the look and feel, the road characteristics? Do we have boulevard type entrances, buffering trees, landscape mounding? That's what we don't have in a comprehensive view that we could say here Intel 2.0, and forget that's a bad example. Here, Toys R Us, you know, just distribution center or data center or technology plant, whoever it is. Any company you would want and say, this is what we would expect of you from beginning to end. We don't have a very crisp, clear set of standards that are laid out. So the staff is looking at this. I've been looking at this. We were hoping to have something in front of you this month. That didn't happen. Hopefully we'll have something in front of you next month. And this would, I think, at least in my opinion, answer a lot of the questions that I have. And it's like, who do we want to be? Who do we want to attract? You know, Mayor Kintner a long time ago probably got a lot of flack for, you know, hey, let's set out on the west side and develop that into an industrial park. Like, why would we want to do that? I can tell you right now, like our largest taxpayers, the largest diversification of our entire tax base is on a 1 mile roadway on the west side of Sunbury. We don't have anything else like it in Sunbury. And long-term, that will put us in a very difficult situation financially. I mean, take the school district, for example, and take these developments that you're looking at right here, build out, every single one of these, no matter if it's an apartment, a single family home, a cluster home, a patio home. Out of all these units, there are going to be kids going into the school district. And every single unit that is built, and I'm not anti-housing, what I'm saying is every single unit that is built, if you bring one kid into the district, it's $12,000 a year in terms of school burden. No single family house in Sunbury is paying $12,000 a year. Most houses in Sunbury, in my neighborhood in particular, have more than one kid in their house. So every single thing that we do in terms of bringing in new housing puts a burden on the school district. And we're not fiduciaries for them. City council is not a fiduciary for the school district, but we are community partners. And we are the ones, planning and zoning, city council, and our staff are the ones that are required by the oath of office we took to have a proactive outlook as to what is the best thing for Sunbury, not in your term that you're here on this board, not in the term that I'm in office, but for the long-term financial viability of the city. And so it's a really long-winded way of saying we are being proactive from a staff, from a legal, engineering, zoning, council, planning commission perspective. We need to affirmatively shift the direction of not change who Sunbury is. The people are what makes Sunbury what it is, the history. But we need to take a proactive look at how do we diversify our tax base long term? Because if we don't, we will be Olentangy 2.0. That's on record. We will become any place you look where it's like you just dominated by houses and roadways and infrastructure, and it doesn't have a diverse tax base. So very long-winded way of saying we need to start looking at this hard and fast. Staff's already on top of it, and hopefully you'll be able to see in the very near term some exciting things that are coming in front of you. Cool.
Thank you.
Anything else? Did we get through all the agenda items? That was my new business. Mr. Gokenhour?
None.
Mrs. Miller? Mrs. Cooper? Mr. Rance? Really glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
You're missed. I mean that. Such a good guy. You have a great wife.
I'll tell her.
Great family. Excellent. Anything from staff? All right. Our next meeting is April 24th. Does anybody right now know that you won't be here?
I told Steve that I am my daughter's birth partner, and her due date is April 20th. So
Well, of course.
we don't know. I will be
Maybe.
maybe not.
Maybe.
And once I get the baby, I get the other grandchild while she and the other one bond.
Oh, you're a great grandmother.
So,
And mother.
but then I can leave the other one with Papa. So
Got it. Okay, yeah. Nature happens, it happens. That's great. Excellent. All right, I think we're gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Ms. Cooper, discussion. Roll call.
St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Ms. Mike.
yes.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Time for the Buckeyes, Ms. Cooper.